In the morning, Sim and Alice brought the blind man to the house. Despite his lack of sight, he was quite the computer expert. He talked the others through the process of setting up a video phone. He said it should serve our purpose, but the low bit rate might make everyone's faces look a bit blocky. The device soon crackled into life. Hello Nighthawk. This is Dr. Hero of Japan. Are you receiving me? Over. Hello, said the old lady. This is Nighthawk. It's good to speak to you again. Dr. Hero explained that something had gone wrong and the enemy robots had nearly breached their defenses. We have everything we need to broadcast our nice virus and make the robots far more passive. It might take a few months. Can you hold out until then? Dr. Hero sighed. Well, we'll have to. I spent the rest of that day helping Sim and the blind man set up a computer with what they called the internet. The planet might have been ravaged by war, but this allowed people to communicate with each other. The old lady was concerned about viruses and other technical-sounding things, explaining that they might infect me. But Mr. Silton talked right over her, as he convinced everyone it was a great idea. It was amazing. When Heather and I looked at it, there was nothing but video games and awesome cartoons. When Mr. Preston looked, it was all strange conspiracies and ghosts. Mr. Logan saw guns. Alice saw that her church was having a summer fete. For Mr. Deck it was operas and subtitled films. But when Mr. Silton looked at it, I was shocked to find the entire thing was full of naked ladies. Later that evening, Mr. Silton wheeled an old piano into the room. Heather smiled as she explained that her parents had bought it for her when she had seen it in an old junk shop. As a thank you, she had written a piece of music for her parents, which one day she tried to play for them. For some reason, she then gave me a huge hug and suggested I might like to play the piano with her. As happy as the old lady was with us playing the piano, we soon got back to business. After scanning the house, she explained that, other than the escaped nanobots, there were 4 test robots that I would have to track down. They had each taken important satellite parts that we would need to broadcast the nice virus, and we had to get these parts back to the hallway with the rest of our equipment. If you're going to explore the house, said Mr. Silton, you should know some of the doors have been boarded up. Here, take my crowbar. Oi, that's mine, laughed Mr. Preston. You said you didn't take it, you really are a proper c***. Mr. Preston explained that they had used it in what he called their old business. I soon realized this meant all sorts of robbery, but he said that they'd given that all up after falling out with their old gang of associates. Although Mr. Preston's story was very interesting, Sim and the blind man had something even more interesting for me, something they called an auto map. The block was very shiny. It looked like it might be able to reflect the laser beams. After a while, I thought maybe it was a good idea to get the shiny block. This room used to terrify me. I always thought these ancient tribal masks looked like something from a nightmare.
Now, this was clearly worth something. The boulder damaged the bridge.
As if from nowhere, Heather appeared.
I was shocked. The house was a dangerous place for a well-trained robot, let alone a young lady. "Why are you so surprised?" she asked. "I know this place at least as well as you." I wasn't able to salvage much from this robot, just some containers full of a funny-colored liquid. However, Heather was far more excited. "Wow," she said, "Dad told me about this, but I never actually saw it." She explained that, with a liberal coating on my joints and exposed areas, I would be able to submerge myself in water. I could now spend limited amounts of time swimming, only 10 seconds or so, but it certainly sounded fun. The machinery looked like it would explode in 10 minutes. I had to get it back to the hallway. I just hoped someone knew what to do with it.
When I got back, I gave the circuitry to the old lady. It took her and the others a couple of hours to work out what to do with this part, but eventually we were ready to head up to the roof to fit it. Everyone else was worried that Mr. Preston had gone out hours ago. He was going to collect the meme machine and said he would only be 20 minutes. But Mr. Silton said he was sure he was fine, and we should set up the next satellite transmitter for the nice virus. Mr. Silton and I were finishing up looking over the satellite dish. There was one thing I had always wondered about his home life. Due to the way she looked after him, I asked him if Mrs. Silton was in charge. But for some reason he got really angry, saying of course she isn't. But then ironically, we heard Mrs. Silton calling. For once Mr. Silton ignored her. At least until she sounded really annoyed. Mr. Preston explained to Mr. Silton that he had been attacked by their old gang associates, but Mr. Silton just got angry and said, "What do they want?" I told them we don't have the money from the post office robbery. He seemed to think that if their old associates tracked them down, then he and Mr. Logan would be able to scare them off. But the old lady pointed out that they would probably be more scared by what she described as a dangerous rogue robot.
Japan calling, this is Japan calling, came the voice again from the computer screen. With a big smile, Dr. Hero explained that they had been contacted by other survivors. But before he could say any more, he was interrupted in the most horrible way. Heather screamed. Nobody knew what to do. "We'll just have to wait," said the old lady, "and pray they're okay."
Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Which was odd, as everyone we knew was already here. As it turned out, the old lady had telephoned the shopkeeper and junkyard owner. They offered to help with their wares, and were parked just outside if I needed them.
Now then, that's a bit cheapest, that's a bit I like the, let's go I won't, that's a bobby I like the, impressive, it's a bit haven't seen one, impressive. Now that is that's I like the, can't steal, my wife, I like the, I'll just, the police, this looks, that's a bot I won't, I collect, I wore it, that's a bit, I'll just, this looks, I'll just, the police, that's go, that's a bit, this looks, I wore it, this is my, let's go, can't say this looks in, it's a bit, can never, that's a beauty, my wife will love the police on, that's going straight, that's go, that's a beauty, now that everything else is, go on then.
Sir need. That'll keep the water out of your joints forever, sir.
Some things were worthless junk, but this could be sold for a decent price. This was one of the most valuable things I'd seen. I didn't know how much this was worth, but it looked expensive. This seemed quite valuable. Now, this was clearly worth something. Some things were worthless junk, but this could be sold for a decent price. This was one of the most valuable things I'd seen. I didn't know how much this was worth, but it looked expensive. Now that's good. I like it. It's a big. This looks I collect. That's going cheapest. I already haven't seen. I collect. That's a bit cheapest. Everything else go on then. Would you? Sir, deserve. I'm no. An addition. Make the junk.
This will give you I'm sure you I needed to use the passport machine to open the huge door.
I made my way back out to the mainland.
I took the fisherman's boat to the old land's estate.
This seemed quite valuable. I was able to salvage some circuitry from the other robot, and Heather was more than happy to help fit it. Heather showed me her robot manual and explained how I would use this new power-up. It was designed for demolition units and seemed that it reinforced my shoulders, allowing me to barge through old or crumbling walls. The controls relied on a press of either of the shoulder buttons to activate the dash and subsequent wall smash. Just like the last satellite part, this one looked like it would explode in 10 minutes. I needed to get back to the hallway. Upon my return, the old lady and the blind man fitted the circuitry. I was worried about Mr. Deck as he seemed depressed about being chained up. But when I tried to talk to him, he just looked angry and went back to his lovely music. So I made my way up to the roof to help everyone fit the satellite dish and bring us one step closer to broadcasting the nice virus. With some brilliant timing, as we all climbed down from the roof, the professor appeared. I think this was the youngest I had ever seen him. Mr. Preston looked most shocked. When we last saw you, but the professor cut him off, explaining, "Stop, I can't risk my mission by knowing too much about my personal future." Mr. Deck was so pleased to see him, saying, "Thank God you're back, it's terrible here with these savages." When we explained what we were trying to do, the professor seemed pleased and offered to help. Somehow his box opened some kind of portal and he urged me to step through. I was slightly apprehensive but followed him into what turned out to be his bedroom. He explained that now I would be able to travel instantly between the hallway and his room, which, when he showed me on my map, turned out to be really useful. So, after he had undone the complicated-looking lock on the door, we made our way back to the hallway. But before we could even thank him, he was gone again.
"Hello Japan, this is Nighthawk calling," said Heather. "Are you receiving me? Over." 4 days we'd all taken it in turns trying to contact Dr. Hero, but the longer it went on the less hopeful we were. "Any luck?" asked Sim. "No, nothing," said Heather. "I'm just worried they're all dead." I didn't like having that image in my mind. If there's one thing I'd learnt, it was that death is really sad.
Now that I like this, everything else go on there. This was clearly worth something. Some things were worthless junk, but this could be sold for a decent price. This was one of the most valuable things I'd seen. I didn't know how much this was worth, but it looked expensive. The robot sounded just like me, but much deeper when he said,
"Prepare to die." Catch this. Take that. Take that. Take that. Boom goes the dynamite. Catch this.
all that came from this robot was a large deflated rubber ball. I had no idea what it was, but Heather fitted the power up in a matter of minutes. It wasn't perfect, but she made it work. Heather explained that by tapping the up button twice, then pressing the run button, I would be able to inflate a large helium balloon. I would then be able to float upwards for a short period of time.
The old lady took the circuitry from me when I got back. While I was gone, Mr. Deck had tried to escape, so Mr. Logan was now literally holding his chain, just like the dog. The blind man had finished up the wiring, so we went to the roof to attach the satellite and prepare for broadcasting the nice virus. When we got down from the roof, everyone was really happy with how the satellite dishes were going, except Mr. Deck. When Mr. Preston laughed and told him to cheer up, he went into a rage, shouting, "I hope this all goes horribly wrong. I will double-cross you all at the earliest opportunity." "All right, Deck," said Mr. Silton, "back to the dog bed with you."
"Japan calling, this is Japan calling," came the voice again as the screen crackled into life. Heather leapt across the room. "This is Nighthawk," she said. "We're receiving you. What happened, over?" Dr. Hero sounded so happy to speak to us. He explained that they were forced deeper into their bunker. He said they had lost many good people, but managed to fight off the robots. "Well," said the old lady, "we're nearly halfway there. As long as we get the last few bits we need, we should be able to broadcast the nice virus in a matter of weeks." "Do not worry," said Dr. Hero. "We will survive."
I'm no
This seemed quite valuable. Even Heather was confused by this upgrade. It took her ages, but with a few final twists of her spanner, the power-up was complete. Once we got it working, it was great. I could finally walk along while ducking. I knew the score, 10 minutes to get back. To the hallway. So cold, my shoes wouldn't stick to the ice.
Sim took the satellite part from me and promptly dropped it. The old lady looked worried as she picked it up, but luckily it was still in working order. So we made our way up to the roof to install it. With this, we were one step closer to broadcasting the nice virus. It was quite late, so everyone slowly went to bed, until it was just me and Alice. The sweet smell of her funny green tobacco filled the air as she explained she had a surprise for everyone in the morning. I wasn't sure what she was talking about, as I soon found myself drifting off. The next day, everyone was wearing their best clothes. Alice had finally talked them into going to her church. There was going to be a summer fete in her town. They were all driving in Mr. Silton's van, but it was so cramped that I thought it would be better if I took my usual method of transport and traveled by train. Now then, the police are it's a bit, that's a bit cheap as cheap. Haven't seen, I'll just let's go to everything, go on then. I took the fisherman's boat to the mainland. I looked forward to going to Alice's church in Sikkim. It was so nice there. Alice's church sounded really interesting. I didn't know what it was, but she seemed really excited. I made my way into the town. Take to the
Mind the doors. The train is now departing. Big city, this is big city. Mind the doors. The train is now departing.
A man in a nice white dress spoke of creation, life, death, and ascension. The stories were slightly confusing, but I found them very comforting. After the service, Mr. Silton and some of the others were all very excited to buy some smelly green tobacco from the man in the nice dress. "Come on, girls," said Alice as she offered a cigarette. "Anyone partaking?" But Mrs. Silton pointed to her pregnant tummy as she said, "You're as bad as my husband." The man, who I found out was called the vicar, took the cigarette. "Robot, as you know," he said as he took a deep breath, "our sports day is this afternoon. Do you think you're up to the challenge?" I walked up to Sim and the vicar, but I wasn't sure what they were talking about. "Yeah," said Sim, "totally filled the basement. She's got 3 old garages as well. All full, stuff everywhere." I mean, it obviously hit me hard when Alice said she was popping inside. "Let me know if you need any more help. If you really want to help, do me and yourself a favor. Stop collecting the bicycles and everything else. You've got to let go." I think Alice made the decision right then and there, as she just turned to me and said, "It's all yours."
The last thing I found was a small photo album. I decided I would leave it here.
After I had cleaned their basement, Alice and Sim got back in the van with everyone else. So I caught the train back to the house, which I suppose now really was our family's home. Now then, there's nothing go on.
Some people stay low. I'm
Now, this was clearly worth something. The exit door was blocked by one of the Ferris wheel's cars, but I could see the controls on the other side.
Mind the doors. The train is now departing. Factorigan. This is Factorigan. Mind the doors. The train is now departing.
Mainton was the next stop. I could get back to the mainland and Mr. Silton's from here.
Mainton, this is Mainton. Mind the doors.
I'm
I made my way back out to the mainland. I took the fisherman's boat to the old man's estate.
When I got back to the house, it was quite late, so everyone was going to bed. For once Alice wasn't smoking her smelly tobacco, and was actually the first one asleep. And so, I actually felt quite peaceful, as I made myself comfortable for the night.
Japan must have different clocks to us, as it was barely daybreak when Dr. Hiro's next communication came through. It was amazing. He really had managed to find a few other groups of survivors. "So, these are our saviors," said the French scientist. "A band of thieves, some old ladies and a little girl."
"Well, they've done better than we have,"
laughed the big German man.
"There are no bad robots where they are."
The Frenchman smirked. Except for the three stood behind them. "Those are our friends," said Heather, quick as ever to defend us. "Guys, say hello." "So there is hope," said the American scientist. "The nice virus really does work. I've had Junior working on a similar virus, but the consciousness software is too well coded." "It's okay," said the old lady. "The virus really does work." The next day, Heather tried to finish off the nice virus code. There were a few problems, but, with a bit of help from the old lady, everything eventually worked. However, by the time we were done, it was quite late, and, as Heather's nice virus code would take a few hours to compile, the old lady suggested we take it easy for the evening. She rummaged through her suitcase and pulled out a pack of what she called cards. For some reason this offended the blind man, who didn't want to play, and Mrs. Silton refused, as she seemed to think it was some kind of gambling. But everyone else gathered around the table. The old lady had explained that the rules involved lying, or bluffing, as she put it, so everyone would be trying to work out what each other's cards were. I think the pressure of playing got to Alice, as she folded almost straight away. At one point, Mr. Preston thought he had won, but he really hadn't. As usual, Sim's sneeze gave him away, which made us all laugh. At one point there was a very tense standoff. Mr. Silton had some very good cards, but not as good as Mr. Deck. Soon, it came down to Mr. Logan, Heather, and myself. Then, just me and Heather. Despite having the best cards possible, I decided to let Heather win. I was so pleased how happy this made her.
It was nearly midnight by the time the game finished, so most people got ready for bed, leaving just me, Mr. Preston and Mr. Logan. Mr. Preston was trying to explain his conspiracy theories. This made Mr. Logan laugh. Barry already told you all that was nonsense, but Mr. Preston continued, don't listen to Silton, he's a proper c***. However, Mr. Logan still pointed out how flawed his logic was. For one, everyone who he claimed was in the shadowy syndicate ruling the world from behind the scenes, were the same people who actually ruled the world, the Queen of England, the President of America, etc. He wasn't even swayed when Mr. Logan pointed out that these people had either been missing or dead since the war, so there was little chance anyone was even ruling the world these days. Mr. Preston paused briefly, then smiled the smile of a man confident in his own beliefs, and went to bed. Which left just me and Mr. Logan talking. He was an interesting man, but we'd never really chatted as he'd made it quite clear he didn't really like robots. He'd seen many friends killed by them during the war, so I could kind of see his point. I tried to explain that I had once accidentally killed an old man, and I still felt complete regret.
That's good.
You never really get over it, he said as he looked around.
Time for bed. Good night.
Very early the next morning, a terrified-looking Dr. Hero appeared on the screen.
Our defenses are nearly breached. The last door could go at any moment.
We are nearly ready to broadcast the nice virus,
said the old lady, but her expression soon turned to confusion. Where's the American scientist? They never saw it coming,
said Dr. Hero.
Just like here, thousands of robots, all attacking at once. Heather looked like she was going to burst into tears.
There were no survivors, said the French scientist. It was all so quick. It was strange. Although we'd only spoken to the Americans once, I could tell everyone felt a huge sense of loss.
We may have a problem here too, interrupted Sim.
The robot server,
it's become sentient. The computer that runs everything, he really is now a he, or at least he thinks he is. The blind man explained that it was the wireless fidelity system that would have linked him to the 4 main robots.
That's why they were all so clever,
said the old lady. The network spread the intelligence around all 4 of them.
Well, said Mr. Silton, 5 now.
Sim explained I would need to force a power cycle on the server before we sent the signal. He's got so much control of the network now, he could probably shut the satellite back down before we'd even started setting it up. The old lady rummaged around in a few boxes. Here, she said as she gave me a passkey, take this, it'll get you into the observatory in the attic, that's where he is.